mind with which I think. God is the 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 mind with which I think. There is no other mind. There's only one mind in the universe, and it's God. And that's what we're going to try to reach today. Our real thoughts, which are in our minds. Well, I'm Forgiveness Willie, teaching forgiveness from the Ozarks, here on lesson 45. We're reading from the Foundation for Inner Peace version of A Course in Miracles. And this is for lesson 45 on Friday, February the 14th of 2025. Happy Valentine's Day. Also, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, but Laylat al-Bara'a, which is an Islamic holiday, Night of Innocence. Have a Night of Innocence. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining me today. I'm Forgiveness Willie, teaching forgiveness from the Ozarks. I think I said that, but now I've said it twice. Lesson 45. God is the mind with which I think. Today's idea holds the key to what your real thoughts are. They're nothing that you think, just as nothing that you think you see is related to vision in any way. There is no relationship between what is real and what you think is real. Nothing that you think or your real thoughts resemble your real thoughts in any respect. Nothing that you think you see bears any resemblance to what vision will show you. Wow. You think with the mind of God. Therefore you share your thoughts with Him as He shares His with you. They are the same thoughts because they are thought by the same mind. To share is to make alike, or to make one. Nor do the thoughts you think with the mind of God leave your mind, because thoughts do not leave their source. Key idea there. Thoughts do not leave their source. Therefore, your thoughts are in the mind of God as you are. You're a thought of God. They are in your mind as well, where He is. As you are part of His mind, so are your thoughts part of His mind. It's like we're fractals of God. Where then are your real thoughts? Today we will attempt to reach them. We will have to look for them in your mind, because that is where they are. They must still be there because they cannot have left their source. What is thought by the mind of God is eternal, being part of creation. What is thought by the mind of God is eternal, being part of creation. Our 3 5-minute practice periods for today will take the same general form that we used in applying yesterday's idea. We will attempt to leave the unreal and seek for the real. We will deny the world in favor of truth. We will not let the thoughts of the world hold us back. We will not let the beliefs of the world tell us that what God would have us do is impossible. Instead, we will try to recognize that only what God would have us do is possible. Okay, remember yesterday, God is the light in which I see, and we were going to try to reach the light. Were you successful? If you tried, you were successful, whether you know it or not. Okay, but today we're going to do something similar, but this time we're going to try to reach our real thoughts. We will also try to understand that only what God would have us do is what we want to do. That's a key idea too. Let's read it again. We will also try to understand that only what God would have us do is what we want to do. That's our true will. That's what makes us happy. To be integrated with God's thought and God's will. We will also try to remember that we cannot fail in doing what He would have us do. There is every reason to feel confident that we will succeed today. It is the will of God. Begin the exercises for today by repeating the idea to yourself, closing your eyes as you do so. Then spend a fairly short period in thinking of a few relevant thoughts of your own, keeping the idea in mind. After you have added some 4 or 5 thoughts of your own to the idea, repeat it again and tell yourself gently, "My real thoughts are in my mind. I would like to find them." Okay, so you understand. Let's look at that. Make sure you got what we're going to be doing. Begin the exercises for today by repeating the idea to yourself, closing your eyes as you do so. God is in my mind. Or God is the mind. You better leave your eyes open when you're reading it, huh? God is the mind with which I think. Close your eyes and say, God is the mind with which I think. Then spend a fairly short period of the 5 minutes thinking a few relevant thoughts of your own, keeping the idea in mind. God is the mind with which I think. Love is all about me, and I'm part of it. I think with love because love is God. I am one with the universe, and the universe's thoughts are mine, and my thoughts are the universe's. I want to find them and be part of them so that I'm happy and that the whole world is saved. You get an idea, just whatever thoughts come to your mind. I was just kind of giving you an out loud practice. After you have added some 4 or 5 thoughts of your own to the idea, repeat it again and tell yourself gently. So you'd repeat it again. God is the mind with which I think. My real thoughts are in my mind. I would like to find them. Then try to go past all the unreal thoughts that cover the truth in your mind and reach to the eternal. Under all the senseless thoughts and mad ideas with which you have cluttered up your mind are the thoughts that you have thought with God in the beginning. They are there in your mind now, completely unchanged. They will always be in your mind exactly as they always were. Everything you have thought since then will change, but the foundation on which it rests is wholly changeless. That word foundation is capitalized, speaking of divinity, our source. It is this foundation toward which the exercises for today are directed. Here is your mind joined with the mind of God. Here are your thoughts one with His. For this kind of practice, only one thing is necessary. Approach it as you would an altar dedicated in heaven to God the Father and to God the Son. Coming into it with holiness, realizing that you're dedicating this to the God the Father and God the Son, which is His creation. And we'll be talking in a minute about a lady who recognized holy perception in an NDE. Okay, so for this kind of practice, only one thing is necessary. Approach it as you would an altar dedicated in heaven to God the Father and to God the Son, for such is the place you're trying to reach. You'll probably be unable as yet to realize how high you're trying to go. Yet even with the little understanding you have already gained, you should be able to remind yourself that this is no idle game, but an exercise in holiness and an attempt to reach the kingdom of heaven, or the kingdom of love, as we're going to find that it's called in our text reading. In the shorter exercise periods for today, try to remember how important it is to you to understand the holiness of the mind that thinks with God. Take a minute or two as you repeat the idea throughout the day to appreciate your mind's holiness. Stand aside, however, briefly from all thoughts that are unworthy of Him, whose host you are, and thank Him for the thoughts He is thinking with you. Okay, so you kind of know what we're going to do throughout the day. You'll stop and take a minute and just say, God is the mind with which I think, and then step aside and just let God's thoughts be. How does He say it? Take a minute or two as you repeat the idea throughout the day to appreciate your mind's holiness, or its wholeness. Stand aside, however, briefly from all thoughts that are unworthy of Him whose host you are. Only love is worthy of Him. and thank Him for the thoughts He is thinking with you. So that's what you'll do throughout the day. Okay, now let's go look in chapter 6, the lessons of love. And we're ready for section 3. And we'll read a little bit out of section 4, the relinquishment of attack. As you're turning there, let me just tell you about that near-death experience. Cailin Callahan, Cailin, I think, Cailin. It's a 31-minute YouTube video. Woman dies, reveals predictions for humanity's future, will leave you speechless. And some things that go so well with things that we've learned is you are an eternal being and cannot be hurt. She learned that when she got kicked by a horse. Quite an interesting story. I think you'll find it very helpful. She talks about the power of your belief. Whatever you believe is what you're going to make a reality. Power of choice to see good or bad and make it so. And then she talked about holy perception, and she called it holy perception by she could understand and perceive what her mother and anybody else in the area was feeling when she went back on her life review. And she realized it was holy perception. And then she also noticed that, I don't know if she said it exactly this way, but we go unconscious when we use judgment. So several things there. The relinquishment of attack. I'll put the description, in the description below, I'll put the link to that one. The relinquishment of attack. As we've already emphasized, every idea begins in the mind of the thinker. Therefore, what extends from the mind is still in it, and from what it extends, it knows itself. The word knows is correct here because the Holy Spirit still holds knowledge safe in your mind through His impartial perception. By attacking nothing, He presents no barrier to the communication of God. Therefore, being is never threatened. Your godlike mind can never be defiled. The ego never was and never will be part of it. But through the ego, you can hear and teach and learn what is not true. You have taught yourself to believe that you are not what you are. You cannot teach what you have not learned, and what you teach you strengthen in yourself because you're sharing it. Every lesson you teach, you are learning. I think that'll really come alive with the video that I encourage you to watch about Miss Callahan. Paragraph 2. That is why you must teach only one lesson. If you are to be conflict-free yourself, you must learn only from the Holy Spirit and teach only by Him. You are only love. But when you deny this, you make what you are something you must learn to remember. I said before that the message of the crucifixion was, teach only love, for that is what you are. Teach only love, for that is what you are. This is the one lesson that is perfectly unified, because it is the only lesson that is one. Only by teaching it can you learn it. As you teach, so will you learn. If that is true, and it is true indeed, do not forget that what you teach is teaching you, and what you project or extend, you believe. Paragraph 3, the only safety lies in extending the Holy Spirit, because as you see His gentleness in others, your own mind perceives itself as totally harmless. Once it can accept this fully, it sees no need to protect itself. The protection of God then dawns upon it, assuring it that it is perfectly safe forever. The perfectly safe are wholly benign. They bless because they know that they are blessed. Without anxiety, the mind is wholly kind. And because it extends beneficence, it is beneficent. Safety is the complete relinquishment of attack. No compromise is possible in this. Teach attack in any form, and you have learned it, and it will hurt you. Yet this learning is not immortal, and you can unlearn it by not teaching it. 4. Since you cannot not teach, your salvation lies in teaching the exact opposite of everything the ego believes. This is how you will learn the truth that will set you free and will keep you free as others learn it of you. The only way to have peace is to teach peace. By teaching peace, you must learn it yourself, because you cannot teach what you still dissociate. Only thus can you win back the knowledge that you threw away. An idea that you share, you must have. It awakens in your mind through the conviction of teaching it. Everything you teach, you are learning. Teach only love, and learn that love is yours and you are love. That's what we want to learn. The only answer, section 4. Remember that the Holy Spirit is the answer, not the question. The ego always speaks first. It is capricious and does not mean its maker well. Capricious is given to sudden or unaccountable changes of mood or behavior. So the ego is capricious and does not mean its maker well. It believes, and correctly, that its maker may withdraw his support from it at any moment. If it meant you well, it would be glad, as the Holy Spirit will be glad, when He has brought you home and you no longer need His guidance. The ego does not regard itself as part of you. Herein lies its primary error, the foundation of its whole thought system. Paragraph 2. When God created you, He made you part of Him. That is why attack within the kingdom is impossible. You made the ego without love, and so it does not love you. You could not remain within the kingdom without love, since the kingdom is love, the kingdom of love. You could not remain within the kingdom without love, and since the kingdom is love, you believe that you are without it. This enables the ego to regard itself as separate and outside its maker, thus speaking for the part of your mind that believes you are separate and outside the mind of God. The ego then raised the first question that was ever asked, but one it can never answer. That question, "What are you?" was the beginning of doubt. The ego has never answered any question since, although it has raised a great many. The most inventive activities of the ego have never done more than obscure the question, because you have the answer and the ego is afraid of you. 3. You cannot understand the conflict until you fully understand the basic fact that the ego cannot know anything. The Holy Spirit does not speak first, but He always answers. Everyone has called upon the Holy Spirit for help at one time or another, and in one way or another, and has been answered. Since the Holy Spirit answers truly, He answers for all time, which means that everyone has the answer now. And the last paragraph we'll read for today, paragraph 4. The ego cannot, isn't that nice to know though that everyone has called upon Him or the Holy Spirit for help at one time or another, and in one way or another, and has been answered. Since the Holy Spirit answers truly, He answers for all time, which means that everyone has the answer now. And then our paragraph 4. The ego cannot hear the Holy Spirit, but it does believe that part of the mind that made it is against it. It interprets this as a justification for attacking its maker. It believes that the best defense is attack and wants you to believe it. Unless you do believe it, you will not side with it, and the ego feels badly in need of allies, though not of brothers. Perceiving yourself alien to itself in your mind, the ego turns to the body as its ally, because the body is not part of you. This makes the body the ego's friend. It is an alliance frankly based on separation. If you side with this alliance, you will be afraid, because you're siding with an alliance of fear. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. Now, we'll get to that lesson, but you're not the body. But the ego likes to think that you're the body and treats you as if that's you. Okay, we want to follow the Holy Spirit, know that we're eternal spirits, and find the mind of God that's within us. Okay, let's see what's going on around. Several things today. Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. Laylat al-Bara'ah, Night of Innocence in Islam. Book Giving Day. Library Lovers Day. Black Literacy Day. International Winter Bike to Work Day. Donor Day. Ferris Wheel Day. Be a cold day to get on Ferris wheel in my country. Have a Heart Day. That should be every day. That's what we're learning, to follow our heart. We're in the kingdom of love. Of course we follow our hearts. The only thing that's sane in this world is following your heart. Impotence Day. No One Eats Alone Day. Single Awareness Day. Pet Theft Awareness Day. Quirky Alone Day. Race Relations Day. Read to Your Child Day. You might even say Read to a Child Day. Inbox Day. Check your inbox. I need to do that more often. Welsh Language Music Day. Condom Awareness Day. World Bonobo Day. Bonobo is a black-faced, black-haired chimpanzee from the area known as the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and its genus Pan, and its species is the troglodytes. World Bonobo Day, Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Day, and World Sound Healing Day. You can use sound to heal. As a matter of fact, I'd encourage you to sing, play music that makes you feel good, and that just helps your body to vibrate. That's kind of like body healing, maybe. But if it makes you feel good, well, then I'd suggest doing it. I like world or sound healing. Bowls, playing a bowl, getting that rhyme, or that that high-pitched sound that's just so soothing. Okay, anyway, World Sound Healing. Sunshine Blue Dwarf Blueberry. It's a Vaccinium ashy crossed with a corium blossom. And it says of the Sunshine Blue Dwarf Blueberry is a compact dwarf southern highbush blueberry, adaptable to different soils and climates, from San Diego to Seattle, from Florida to Pennsylvania. Excellent ornamental value, 3 foot tall. Our best plant for keeping in a large wine barrel type pot. Yields are 5 to 10 pounds of fruit per bush and about 80 berries per cup. Excellent fruit and productive, very low chill hours. Only needs a few days of temperatures below 45 to begin growing again. It's a good choice for indoor winter gardening or greenhouses. Fall color is red. Native space, 4-foot circles, zones 5 through 10. Large sweet berries, and you can grow it in a container if you like to grow blueberries in a container. Okay, let's see. And our word for peace is from the Aragonese people of the Iberian Peninsula, Spain, basically. And it's Patz. P-A-T-Z. Am I pronouncing that right? Patz. Okay, we've got time to have, and I'll try not to take as much time as we did yesterday, but let's try to at least get you started on your practice. God is the mind with which I think. God is the mind with which I think. And close your eyes and tell yourself, God is the mind with which I think. God is the mind with which I think. And then try to think up some different ideas that go along with that. I'll give you a minute. Then, God is the mind with which I think. My real thoughts are in my mind. I would like to find them. My real thoughts are in my mind. I would like to find them. God is the mind with which I think. God is the mind with which I think. My real thoughts are in my mind. I would like to find them. For this kind of practice, only one thing is necessary. Approach it as an altar, dedicated in heaven to God the Father and to God the Son. For such is the place you are trying to reach. God is the mind with which I think. 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 Patz. Be sure to take time today to pause and step aside and let your true thoughts guide you to God, to the kingdom of love. God is the mind with which I think. Patz.